So besides the written Torah, the Jews studied oral law and commentary. They called it learning, or Talmud. It included virtually everything that could concern a human being, from philosophy to the relationship between the sexes, from history to mysticism, politics, ethics, aesthetics, the natural world, and on and on.
It is important for the Israelis to shift attention somewhere else and make the world forget what Goldstein did. Immediately after the Goldstein attack, the Israeli Secret Service clandestinely planted a bomb in a Catholic church in Lebanon, hoping to kill hundreds of Catholic worshippers, a bombing which would then be blamed on the Arabs, and in this way shift media focus onto the Arabs. Arab attacks and 50-year-old Holocaust tales from World War II are what the Israelis seek to keep constantly in the news any way they can.
There's another mass killing in the Middle East today at another place of worship. It happened this morning in Juni, Lebanon. ABC's Mike Lee has details.
At Our Lady of Salvation Church near Beirut, the wreckage of a bomb that ripped through the congregation of Maronite Christians. One woman who was wounded said, "I never heard the explosion. I went deaf and found myself flying. Then there were mutilated bodies all around me, and my husband was dead." No one claimed responsibility for the murder.
It's not time now to send any accusation. We have to wait for judiciary authorities who will investigate.
But as always in the murky politics of Lebanon, there were conspiracy theories, with foreigners at the top of the list. Some government officials implied that Israel planted the bomb as a distraction from the Hebron massacre.
When the Israeli Secret Service bombing of the Lebanese Catholic Church was exposed as a Jewish covert terrorist act, the Israelis temporarily ran out of diversions. Goldstein's massacre remained international front-page news as a horrified world got a front-row seat at a species of Jewish hatred and mass murder that we had been taught Jews could never be guilty of. Goldstein, wearing the yellow star, which is the mark of Jews obsessed with the 50-year-old Holocaust stories, perpetuated a massacre of men and boys at prayer based on the Talmudic concept that Arabs are dogs and Israelis are God's master race. The reality of Jewish racism had to be quickly minimized. Hence, the Jews played their master card, calling for none other than Hollywood movie director Steven Spielberg to come to Israel and show his latest fantasy epic, Schindler's List, yet another film about the Holocaust based on a work of fiction by novelist Thomas Keneally. The idea was that the perpetually memorialized Holocaust story from a half-century ago is supposed to have more meaning and importance than the massacre of scores of Palestinian civilians that had just taken place a few days before. It is this perpetual obsession with the Holocaust that gives Israel an alibi and a license to slaughter Arabs. It obviously deeply influenced Baruch Goldstein, and now it is being used like some cheap carnival sideshow trick to distract attention away from Jewish crimes and from the need to undo the mentality that makes those crimes possible.
It was unknown to 60% of American high school students up until a few months ago. I'm just happy that the word is discovered, and I'm just happy it's being discovered in synchronization with the release of Schindler's List, because those are the young people that we need to impress with what's happened.
Among guests at the event were Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. Wednesday, Spielberg opened Schindler's List in Warsaw, Poland. The real-life events depicted in the film took place in Poland. Spielberg received yet another award for Schindler's List. He was honored by the Producers Guild of America Wednesday in Los Angeles. He was unable to attend because he was overseas.
It is a very wonderful recognition of a subject which is hard to look at, hard to deal with, hard to spend any time with.
The filmmaker, unable to attend the event, accepted his award by videotape. He was chosen Motion Picture Producer of the Year. The event called
The mass murder of Palestinians is not limited to the so-called Jewish settlers. Baruch Goldstein was a major in the Israeli army and committed the massacre while in the uniform of that army. The Israeli army has had the barbaric official policy of shooting to death unarmed Palestinian civilians who throw stones for at least the past 14 years. The Western world has generally turned a blind eye to this use of live ammunition against kids with slingshots. The Israeli army crimes against Palestinians received fleeting media attention in the wake of Goldstein's massacre in the mosque, but once the spotlight has shifted to another world trouble spot, Palestinians will once again become sitting ducks in the Israeli army shooting barrel. That army, made up in part of settlers, is just as racist, bigoted, and violent as the settlers themselves. In fact, as you will see in the forthcoming footage, army and settlers are one and the same.
But the only people to die today were more Palestinians. A 14-year-old boy was shot by soldiers in a village near Jerusalem. 2 other young men were killed in other parts of the occupied territory. They raised the black flag of mourning and rained rocks down on Israeli police. For several hours this afternoon, Gaza came to the Galilee. Silence in Hebron today. It was a city in mourning and under curfew. A city where dazed survivors clutched pictures of people killed in the massacre or held children too young to know that father was dead.
This is the daughter for my son.
The only movement in town was the movement of soldiers. There were many soldiers in Hebron today. In the eyes of Palestinians, too many.
But there's another question. Did the Israeli army kill some of the Palestinians massacred in the mosque? Israeli television and Palestinians reported that 8 or 9 Palestinians fled the mosque, ran into soldiers who opened fire.
And deep despair as mourners prepared to bury a 17-year-old youth from a village outside Jerusalem. He was the latest victim of clashes between stone-throwing demonstrators and Israeli security forces. Palestinian anger in East Jerusalem was at boiling point after Friday's mosque massacre in Hebron. Troops responded. Head-on confrontations in the Gaza Strip as well. Seeking to bottle up the rage which exploded throughout the occupied territories after the slaughter, Israel funneled sizable reinforcements into the West Bank and Gaza. Palestinian mourning in the occupied territories also spread to the heart of Israel's own Arab population. There were angry demonstrations in several places, including Jaffa and Nazareth, as Israel's 750,000 Arab citizens observed a full-scale solidarity strike. With curfews in force in many Palestinian areas, Israel's state-run television has claimed that not all the mosque massacre victims were gunned down by this settler. The reporters said that in the panic that ensued, soldiers had rushed in, and opening fire had also killed some of the Palestinians. To Israel 11 years ago, and is also reported dead. Palestinian leaders demanded swift action. There could be dire consequences for the peace process between Israel and the PLO.
They are talking about peace out, and now they are killing us and shooting us.
Some called for calm and sent in reinforcements that slapped a curfew on Hebron, closed off the Gaza Strip, and beefed up forces in Jerusalem. But the rage rolled on. In Hebron, kids picked up rocks and faced off against phalanxes of Israeli soldiers. The massacre didn't stop the killings. Another 12 Palestinians died before the day was done.
Hundreds of soldiers called in to tackle stone-throwing Palestinian youths on Temple Mount.
Israeli soldiers poured into the area to try to restore order, but the Palestinians wouldn't back down, pelting the security forces with rocks and debris, the soldiers responding with gunfire. By nightfall, more than a dozen more Arabs had been killed in the rioting.
Regardless of what the Israeli cabinet may have decided, the Israeli army seems more intent on punishing Palestinians today than cracking down on Jewish extremists.